Welcome back to Excel, a mental evolution podcast. And I'm your host, Dr. Seth Rose. And today is episode 33, where we're talking about embracing vulnerability. Wow, that was really bad. Vulnerability. So I know we're continuing on this talk of Brad Stulberg's Principles of Excellence. He mentions vulnerability in some of his books. But really, the person that is kind of spearheading this idea is Brené Brown. Tons of TED Talks out there, great books. And she kind of talks about how vulnerability is really important for growing and learning, but also nurturing social relationships in your personal and professional lives. It's kind of a foundation, really, of having, better cognition and higher quality of relationships and connections. So this is recognizing and accepting, weaknesses, and your vulnerabilities can lead to personal growth and learning, like I had mentioned. But really, this principle is about being open to challenges, being open to feedback, kind of emotional exposure, if you will, and feeling kind of this, sometimes it can feel uncomfortable, which is the point. So if we can sit with that uncomfortableness, if that's even a word, and then accept things and recognize our weaknesses and grow from them, that's really important and can be hard, but very rewarding if we're able to acknowledge those things and accept the feedback and face the tough challenges, and have that openness to grow, right? And there's way more that we can talk about vulnerability, but I do want to just get straight to the point of application here. When you are comfortable, vulnerability can feel weird and icky. So challenge those comfort zones, regularly stepping outside of those comfort zones to tackle a harder task, learn new skills, talk to somebody that you've never talked to before, introduce yourself to somebody that you have never met. Those can all be great ways to kind of challenge those comfort zones. And then specifically when it comes to recognizing and establishing and accepting weaknesses and being vulnerable enough to sit with those, seek feedback is another applied practice here. Seek the feedback and make sure that you're actively asking for it, and then take it constructively, regardless whether it's positive or negative or productive or unproductive. Feeling vulnerable enough to just seek that feedback, even if it's not necessarily given to you, you are soliciting it, can definitely help with this idea of vulnerability. And then we kind of talked about it again, but I think maybe its own separate thing is, this kind of emotional exposure terminology when it comes to embracing vulnerability is when you're reflecting on your relationships with your friends and your family or your colleagues, what areas can you cultivate and strengthen, and how you can talk to them in a way to grow and nurture those social relationships. And growing those it helps if we are vulnerable in those situations. All right. Thanks for sticking around today. Check out more about the power of vulnerability with Brené Brown's, some of her TED Talks. You can easily find those on the internet and YouTube. I'll catch you next time.